Uh, Dr. Munir Saab is here.
Yes, sir, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Mazhar, please give the access of screen sharing to Dr. Munir Saab.
सर राइट्स दे दिए
Okay.
Sir, I will share. Thank you.
Yes. I welcome you all the people in our 19th seminar. And today the speaker is Associate Professor from Department of Entomology. And the topic is urban insect pest problems and their management. The talk will be about 30 to 40 minutes. Then we have 5 questions. I will request Dr. Munir Ahmed to start his talk, and Dr. Farooq Nasser will conclude the session as I am a little away in the traveling. Thank you, Dr. Munir Ahmed, for sparing your time for this seminar. I hope the students and the participants will learn a lot about the urban insect pest problems and their management. And the mic is hand over to Dr. Munir. Please continue your talk.
Thank you, sir. I think the slides are visible now.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay. So today's topic is about the urban insect pest problems and their management. So this topic was chosen actually because most of our community is now living in the urban areas, and the major problems which we face, they are not only the vector-borne pests, but we have a variety of insect pests living in our urban habitats. So the first thing that we have to understand is the word urban. Urban environment is mainly, we see this is the environment which we have developed ourselves. And sorry, is it not visible? Now it's in the visible form. Okay. So the urban environment, if we see, we have changed a lot to our surrounding environment due to the increase in the human population. We can say that a lot of changes has been made in our surrounding environments. We have made the natural environment, the natural habitat, we have changed them based on our needs, based on our residential areas requirements. We have made so many things underground and over the ground. So you'll see them one by one, that how and which most common insects in the urban environment we will come into contact. So I've classified these focal areas into different categories to understand, because in my belief, we don't have the entomology student, but the general students also. So the categorize can be like household insect pests, the insects which live with us in our houses. And second category is that we grow plants as a kitchen gardening with us, not only for the ornamental purposes, but for the fruits and vegetables also. So some of the insects will also be discussed, which are relevant to this. Similarly, we have grown so many plants as ornamental on the roadsides, in the parks, and the urban areas for the not only for the beautification but for other purposes also. And there are some other insects which damage the structure which we may make where we live, as we use the wood in our structure also. So some of the insects which are very problematic, they damage, destroy the structures which are made by the wood. And another aspect which is very important in the urban area is the store grain insect pest. These insect pests, they are directly relevant to the environment where we use them for the resources, for the conservation of the food reservoirs, for grains and other things which we keep with us, and we'll see how we can understand that. So I have just simplified some simple principles so that we know that how we see different insects and how we think about the ways to manage them. So the first and the most important principle in insects science is about their classification. That we should know that how we can differentiate these insects, and we'll talk about it. The major categories, we can say that we split them on the basis of their interaction. Like some, they suck the sap of the plants, some they feed, they chew, they penetrate inside the green plants, they penetrate inside the trees, they bore inside. So they have different behaviors. So we'll also see a little bit about these things. And the important thing is, as they are the major competitor of ours in our every sphere of life, so we have also we should have some background that how their life cycle exists, how they change from one form to another, how much time they take. So generally, we say that the size of the insect has a very simplified relationship in general terms. That the smaller the size, the shortest is the life cycle. But this is a general term. So there are also so many other insects which we call as the introduced pest, which are not common to our region, but they have been brought to our area through the food supply from one country to another. These are the unintentional introduction of this pest. They might have been carried carried as diseases or parasites through the passengers, or introducing the new plants or the biocontrol agents. We use them for the pest control. So these are some of the categories I have mentioned here to understand that we don't only deal with the insects which are common, which are resident of this area, but also we can face those insects being brought out of our boundaries. So for those, first and the most important thing is that we must go for the survey or the detection of these insects based on their insect classification. We should identify them properly and at the lowest pest level. For example, fruit fly, it generally moves with the fruits. It can also fly, but most commonly the fruit flies are carried from one part of the country to another. So generally we go for two kind of control methods, or two major categories in which we classify them as a preventive control and the curative control. So preventive control is that we keep them at the earliest level and at the earliest stage, so that they don't reach at the stage where they could damage our commodities. But if they exceed that limit, we go for different ways to manage them, including the different methods like control methods. We name them as chemical, biological, mechanical, and other sources. So depending on the insects in their different habitat, in their different interactive ecological interactions with their host or with us, we use these based on our needs. So first is the household insect pest. I have just mentioned some of these. It's a very long list. The most common with which we come in contact are mosquitoes, cockroaches or roaches. Flies has a large number of species. Similarly, we have some of them which are relevant to certain areas on the environmental conditions. Bed bugs, crickets, ants. These are some of the household insect pests. So if we first say, I will just briefly introduce, because it will then be out of the scope to discuss in detail. So most dangerous insect pest as a disease vector. These are the mosquitoes. And most common species which belong to different genuses. A genus of the mosquito species, these are Aedes, they have Anopheles and the Culex. There are other genuses, but these are three of the most important genus which are responsible for the transmission of diseases and other problems, not only in humans, but other animals too. And like most common of these diseases transmitted are the malaria, dengue fever, yellow fever, and it's a very long list. And if you see mosquitoes, the most destructive top 10 pests against the humans, mosquitoes can be at the top of the list. So they favor the humid and the hot weather. They have the shortest lifespan, and there are different ways to manage. So if you see simply the life cycle, they have 4 stages. They have the eggs, larvae, or larvae, and the pupae. The larvae, pupae, and the eggs, they are generally near to the water bodies. Larvae, they develop inside the water bodies, and adults are the free living organism which can fly and they can move away, and they are the major insects stage of the mosquitoes which come in contact with the vectors, and if they carry the disease, they transmit it, or they transmit it from one host to another, because females, they need protein diet to for the maturation of their eggs. That's why they feed on the human blood or the other animals. Next category is the cockroaches. Cockroaches are very important. 2 major species are very common in our areas. The most common species are, if you see on the right side, they are the oriental cockroaches, and on the left, these are the German cockroaches. They are mostly present near the humid area. They also prefer humid and hot conditions. So you will see most commonly in the kitchen, baths, toilets, and those areas where humidity is very high. These are nocturnal, means they hide during the daytime and they move or invade our living places and other places at the night time. The best way to manage them is sanitation, cleanliness, the absence of water, and food. Anything which is eatable are the reservoirs where they can multiply. So the dustbins or any leakages in our kitchen or washroom, they can become the source of infestation of these roaches. Prevention, these are the preventive measures. If you face these problems, they can be either physically removed or they can be tolerated, mostly because their population is very low at the early stage, especially in case of the German roaches, because they multiply at very fast pace, and cracks and crevices and those places in the kitchen, they are the best places. So there are different ways you can use. Most easy and the most convenient way is the use of the baits, or generally we call them as the gel baits. For granular bait, we can use boric acid, which can be spread in shelves or other places in the kitchen where these are commonly present. Use of pyrethroids or organophosphates is common for their management if they are out of limit. But even then, in the sewage lines, they are the best places for the oriental cockroaches to multiply. So sanitation, again, it becomes the most important stage method of control, so that we can manage the roaches under the limit. Or even if they are present, the safest is the gel baits, which are commonly available in the market as a syringe. And they have also mentioned the way or the method of their use. 1 or 2 times of their utilization can generate a sequential killing of these roaches. So these are the safe ways which can help to avoid the exposure to the insecticides. Next insect which commonly we face are the flies. We see house flies are the common. This is a snap of the house flies, but these are a lot of species which are present, and they not only cause problems or annoy us in the urban areas, they also very problematic in the livestock management, and especially in the medical facilities where hospital management. These flies are also very annoying. So we use different approaches. We can go for the personal protection. We have buildings. We can have the screen doors and windows so that we don't let them enter. We have the floors at the entry points, and we can also have the sticky bands if some flies they come inside the premises or the building. And if these are not even possible and efficient, then we go for the use of the insecticides. And for that, we have the residual as well as non-residual insecticides. But the best way is to avoid them or become in contact with these insects. So flies, they are very common. The best method of avoiding these flies is avoidance. Screen doors, screen windows, they are the best ways to avoid not only the flies, mosquitoes, midges, and other insects. They can also prevent you, they can also keep you away from the use of the chemical insecticides and their hazards. Next insect, which is common in our living places, are the bird bugs. These insects generally suck the blood. They are the pests, but they don't generally not known that if they transmit any vector pathogens. These insects are very common in those areas where conditions are more humid, like if we discuss about the regions like Karachi, like Rawalpindi, Islamabad, especially these are very problematic in those areas, in the northern areas where inside conditions are humid and cleanliness is not very common. Carpets are having used. We don't go for the exposure of the inside beds and carpets to the sun every year. So these are the major insects which come. They are very problematic. They make they become annoyance while sleeping, and if they become very large in population, it's very annoying. So there are different ways as a non-chemical methods. We have to identify first. So for that purpose, we generally use the sticky tapes. Because they are also nocturnal. We don't they hide during the daytime. So the sticky tapes around the legs of the beds and near the walls, these places can also hinder their movements. And also we have different barriers which can use. Laundry must be cleaned with hot water. If this problem persists over there, cleaning through vacuum, having the filter is very important, especially in those areas where travelers are being using, especially in the hotels and other places. So for that purpose, room to room cleaning of the filter is very important. Steaming, heat, temperature is very important, especially if this problem is very severe. Even the low temperature is also very good, but these are not as valid for the large scale treatment. And if we go for the Chemical control, we can see chemical control we generally use for the pyrethrites, organophosphates, IGRs. These can be utilized either singly or they can be mixed depending on the situation of the bed bugs. So generally they are applied at the time when we are not using that place. Next category, next insect which commonly we face are the ants. They are very common and they like, as we see that they are mostly they are absent in the winter, but summer and spring are the best time because they need food. They like the spill of foods, grains spread in the kitchen and other places where we eat. So for them, baits are available so to avoid their entry inside them. Even the sealants are available and wiping the trails because ants, when they move, they remove certain chemicals which we name them as pheromones, and they help them as a trail to attract the other insects to reach those areas. So insecticides are also used, but the best way is there avoiding the contact with the food. House crickets are also very common. And if we go for the, I will answer the questions at the later stage. Let me finish first. House crickets are annoying because they generate sound like they chirp mostly. Major problem which they cause is that they are the cellulose feeders, especially the cloths, carpets, and those fabrics which are present in our homes. They chew them. So they can also be avoided if the environment is clean and leading to their voice, they can be identified at that stage. Next insect. Next category, kitchen gardening insects. I have just give their pictures because it's a lot of insects which are present. Most common insects, we classify them into the sucking insects, the leaf feeders, and the fruit feeders. So we have, if we see here, the leaf, even the leaf worms, they also feed on the fruits. If leaves are not present, this is the leaf worm. And the aphids, thrips, Helicoverpa insect, or we call it as the pod borer or the fruit borer, semi-loopers. Central picture shows the white ones. These are the mealybugs, white flies they have on the right side. And the lowest line, we are having lace bugs, which are getting common, and the beetle, which are generally in the root zone. So these are the major insects because we generally, in our kitchen gardening, we generally go for the vegetables like salad plants, like mint, cucumber, all tomatoes. These are the most commonly grown plants, and these insects are present on them. And for sucking insect, the most common insecticides which can be utilized are the imidacloprid, acetamiprid, and if we talk about these caterpillars, these caterpillars, we can go for, we have two categories major. Conventional as the new chemist insecticide. Conventionals, they are cheap, like chlorpyrifos, profenofos, triazofos. They are the, and from pyrethrites, they are also present. But for caterpillars management, OPs are much better. And if we go for the new chemistry insecticide, we have a lot of like spinosad and chlorantraniliprole and so many others, but they are very costly. But if needed, we can go for that. So these are the most common insects which we face in the garden situations. If we go for the ornamental plants, which we grow in our gardens, in our orchards, inside the urban areas, on the roadsides, we will find a list of these most common insects, which are leaf miners, leaf hoppers, So this snap beside the text shows the mines in the leaves. So this is the most common identification for different species present. These are the leaf miners. These can be flies. These can be beetles. These can be Lepidopterus, moth caterpillars. So they are different, but in generally, we should note that these leaf miners are also present in the ornamental plants. Next category is leaf hoppers. They will come, and a few of them I have shown with their damages. Like these are the Japanese beetles. Here we see that they have damaged the fruits, they have damaged the leaves and the flowers. So these are common. Next is the hoppers. We have a lot of hopper species. Most common characteristics from which we can identify. One of the hopper is also here, a green one in the lower picture. Yellowing of the leaf tips and then redness. These are the symptoms, early symptoms of the hoppers, and later on they can even damage the flower stalks or the leaves, upper leaves. Leaf beetles have a lot of variety, lot of different damage types, lot of different styles of the eating the leaves. This is one of the leaf beetle. So you see here the leaves, they have different type of patterns from which we can identify, and these fields shows the severe damage of these leaf beetles. Similarly, we have the insects, like these are the beetle grubs or beetle larvae, which have been feeding inside the stem. This is because of their damage that this is the response of the plant to save it. This is generally called as the gamosis. Stem borer, they damage them and the plant tries to protect itself. But if we cut the stem or the branch, we can find very large grub inside feeding. So this is also a problem. If you go for the store grain insects, which are commonly present, we categorize them into two major groups, beetles and the moths. So most commonly, the insects which we face are the beetles. The A and C, like Capra beetle and the floor beetle, these are the two major insects which have been commonly brought in contact to us. Beetle will be like this one, very small. They can damage our whole grains or even the grind ones. Uh, Generally, we go for the, we have different methods to manage them. The place where we store them, we should sanitize that place. It should be clean. It shouldn't have the last year grain storage. If we have been keeping the old last year grains or the flour or rice, we should have to clean that first. Then we go for the fumigation. If we have the problem, we can cover up, airtight them, and then we can use different kinds of tablets which are available. DTA tablets are one of them. They have been used as one tablet per 50 kg grains or flour, and within 2 weeks the insects present will be killed, and then after third week it is present, it is in a situation to be used to avoid the minimum issues from the fumigation of those chemicals. There are certain bioinsecticides like metarhizium and other are present. Control atmosphere is generally used at the industrial level. uh, Plant characteristics like the characters of the grains, they make them resistant or susceptible, and also the use of hot or cold environments, they are also used to avoid their damages, because they are very severe to our resources. Another category is the structural insects pest, and these generally include termites, powder post beetles, and carpenter ants. And out of those, termites are the major insects which target our structures like homes, furnitures, outside the buildings areas. Powder posts are also important. They generally like the wood which is not being processed, not resistant, and has some humidity. So third category is the carpenter ants. So if we go for the termites, you see this is one of the major structural pests which causes only in the US it causes $1 to $3 billion per annum. Likes the warm and humid environment, although they cannot digest the cellulose, but they feed on it. And they have different categories, like they are the social insects, they live in a colony, they have queen, they have king, they have soldiers, and they have millions of workers in a single colony. This is one of the pictures showing the damage caused by the termites. If you see the structural, we generally split them into two types, dry wood and subterranean. These are some of the pictures showing the damages and the symptoms, which we can see that these termites have been causing. Termites, if we see, they have, if we have the doors and they come in contact with the soil, these termites can make problem. So if we have the base is supported by the metals, these can be avoided. Similarly, if we clean the wood, we remove the debris, and we don't let the wood come in contact with the soil, and we use the wood which is coming in contact with the soil. So these are the ways which can be utilized, because we have certain trees which are resistant to the termite damage. So we can avoid them, leading to the wood material being used, which is susceptible. Another way is the use of the chemicals. For these different methodologies, pre and post treatments are available. And they can be managed using the organophosphate insecticides. The second one, which causes the damage to the structures, is the powder post beetle. If you see its damage, it's very difficult. It has a number of species which differ in their damages. So you see here type of, we simply either identify them on the basis of the insects present. This is the most common powder post beetle, the lower one, which is present in our area. But others can be present, and they are being identified on the basis of the damage they cause. Generally, they cause a circular damage, opening at the place, and this is the fresh one, and this is the active, and this is the passive damage. So for these, generally previously we have been using the organocolorants like heptachlor and other insecticides, but after their ban, now organophosphates are available. But as we know that these are generally used, the wood is affected by the water, so those insecticides are used which are miscible with the oils. So once we apply or inject these insecticides on these infected ones, we put them outside so that the beetles go away, the hazards of the insecticides also low down. Another is the carpenter ant. This generally don't feed on the wood, but it makes the nest inside the wood. But it is not common in our areas. Only it is more common in the temperate areas. But because it's damaging, we have the temperate areas. That's why I just included it. It has the same social structure like the termites, and the same methodology as we use for the termites and the powder post beetle. We can manage them. So some of the snaps you see here, this is the damage of these ants. They have make their galleries inside the wood, and this is the debris. But these are very difficult because they have multiple colonies, and very difficult to identify the primary colony. Okay, so this was all about the presentation, and I might have not covered all the insects because it's not possible. But if you like, uh, the detail can be discussed anytime. Now it's open. You can ask the questions, please.
Yes, we have 5 questions. If anybody want to ask the question, please raise hand or ask the question, no issue. That's there is some questions in the chat room. You can please see and answer the questions.
Okay, sir. I'm just looking them. So the first question is
Yes.
about the rules and regulations of the food safety,
They are
which have
asking.
been
They are asking
using.
that IGRS. Yes.
Yes, they are asking about the organophosphate insecticides. There are another question is about the IGRs. So
Yes.
first I will about organophosphate insecticides. As we know that the organophosphates, they have, when they don't come in contact with the light, their shelf life increases. So for killing these insects, which we deal with the urban pest, chlorpyrifos, profenophos, triazophos, these are the best insecticides. If we if we go for the larvicides, you see we have the tamifos insecticide, especially for the mosquitoes. Same is the case for the IGRs. Like we have different IGRs like leuconuron, chlorfluozuron, and many others. It's a very long list which can be used. So these can either be applied to the place, because from the exposure site where these insects come in, these insecticides can either be applied directly, or then they can either be mixed with some eatables. Like if we are targeting the ants and other insects, we can go for that. Another question being asked is the IGRs connected for the bed control? Yes, because we generally see that in our areas and other, mostly people are reluctant to go for the methods which are non-control methods. Generally, non-control methods like using sticky tapes, cleaning, use of carbon dioxide based tools which are used to attract the bed bugs. Most people prefer the quick control of these insects. So for that purpose, if we mix the IGRs with pyrethroids or organophosphates, so these can be the mixed form. So if we use them, we can affect their life cycle, and we can have a break so that we have a long-term management. Okay, and another question.
Yes. If anybody have other question, please let us know.
Pyriproxyfen is also a good IGR. It is generally very good for the household pests, especially flies, especially mosquitoes. It is good for their immatures. And there is another question. Bedbug infestation is common in hospital. Recently, my student has completed thesis on it, and level of infestation was found very high. Yes, it is because the places where we have different humans coming in and out, like I mentioned that in the hotels and other places where people come and leave, they generally don't care about the sanitation and other things. They generally focus that the people responsible for that place, they have to provide those facilities. This is the same case in hospitals too. So this can be a very nice area where medically important tests can be worked out. And if we see for the different cleaning processes, sanitation, if they are being followed in the hospitals, cleaning of the beds and other things, exposed to the sun, these are the simple ways they can utilize, but generally it is not the case. Next, in hospitals, if we see sanitation, number one means cleaning of the beds, the sheets cleaned by the bleach, or generally they use as they have exposure of the waste materials also. Regular cleaning is very important. Eatables are there, so the excess, and once the bed bugs are there, the whole facility is required to be either treated by the insecticides, or it has to be cleaned for a regular interval, because single time application of the insecticide is not viable. We have to go for the multiple ways, and we have to go for the multiple applications. Yes, please.
That's there is one more question in the chat room.
Why will stuck to chlorpyrifos? According to recent research, fipronil has demonstrated extraordinary result in different field types. Yes, actually, it is not important that you just focus the chlorpyrifos. The example was given only because this is cheap in price. So when we go for the chemical control, we must know that we have to rotate these chemicals based on their different groups. Like once, if you are going for chlorpyrifos, next time you can go for fipronil, next time you can go for another insecticide like imidacloprid. You have to change the group of the insecticide also, because if you are not changing them based on their mode of action, you are letting those insects become more tolerant. They are getting more stronger for the next application of the insecticide. Yes, you can go for fipronil also. It's also very good insecticide. So if I left it, common practices for the gnats. Gnats basically these are also very severe issues, especially in the humid areas. If we see that, I just little bit elaborate about the mosquitoes. Gnats and mosquitoes, they fall into the almost the same category. The best thing is to avoid them. Screens with the double screens, they are also very good. Means the mesh size is very important when we go for the nets, because they are very small than the mosquitoes. So if we don't let them come inside our residential places, if you see, if you remember our parents, they have been having the practice of opening the whole house. Proper aeration was there. They have been using something as a fumigants from the natural sources. They have been exposing the beds, the sheets to the sun. They have been doing all those things. Presently, we are not following those things. We generally focus the use of chemicals. That's why we have been facing these problems. First, the most important thing is avoidance. If we don't come in contact with them, also another way is the use of the repellents. We have a lot of DEET based, like Mospel has the DEET. These are this is one of the best insecticide which is used as a repellent. We can use them. Might be against the gnats, but avoidance, I think, is the best. Pyrethroids are the second option. Repellent are there. Even presently, we see people which live outside, which go outside for recreation. They can use the bed nets. They can use the nets which has been treated with single or a mix of insecticides. Like chlorphenapir mixed with some pyrethroid is another option, which has been tested, and it is it has an increased shelf life. It can manage the insects like mosquitoes and gnats coming to the net, because you are inside, so they can, if they will come in contact, they will be killed and you will be safe. chemical we can use for snakes? I don't have, sorry, I don't have experience with the snakes. But one of the way which we can use to avoid the snakes is generally that the boundary shouldn't allow. Means if you are outside somewhere, you have to make a dish like ditch is present all around, and it is covered with the barb like tree branches. I think it can be avoided, but about the chemical, sorry, I don't know.
Thank you, Dr. For your valuable time. Today, the topic was very informative, not only for students, but for also as home remedies. I think this recording we will share on our website, and the students and even the faculty members can use to listen at their home to ensure the avoidance and ensure the control of urban insect pest issues. Thank you, Dr. Munir Ahmed, for sparing your
Thank you, sir.
valuable time. And
Thank you.
thank you, the participants, to be with us today. And next lecture will be from the Department of Zoology, and we will announce the date, keeping in view the holidays of the Muharram. Thank you very much for all for today's seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.